Sometimes the best stories have a plot twist. And you say to yourself, of course, I should have seen that coming. This may be one of those times. All right, hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you caught the last few videos, you know that I've been on a bit of a journey, deciding whether to revive an old 3D printer or start fresh with something new. And if you haven't watched those videos, you should probably go back and watch them first, but whatever order you want to take it in, that's entirely up to you. So through tons of research, soul searching, and reading through your comments, and thanks for those, by the way. I mean, really, it helped me with making my decision. I want to walk you through how I got here, though. So let's get to it. Oh, but first, as a quick reminder, if you missed the last video where I talked about repurposing my old rack mount enclosure, which is right down here, for a 3D printer chamber, and I'll link to it up here and also down in the description. Watching that video may help you understand my choice, but hey, it's YouTube. You do you. All right, let's talk printers. After weighing all the options, I decided to go with...
I couldn't help it. It just popped in there.
What did you do, Ray? Oh, shh.
The Bambu Lab P1P. And if that surprises you, based on what I've said before, you're not alone. Bambu was not at the top of my list early on. I had some serious reservations, and honestly, I still do. There were a few red flags. You had closed source firmware, these ridiculous price hikes that happened before the tariffs even took effect, and then honestly, this gaslighting of not only their customers, but the reviewers about what types of actions they were taking and why we, as the general public, got it wrong. But then I watched an interview with the Bambu CEO and Stefan of CNC Kitchen, and I'll link to that down below. I'm still cautious, but the guy, frankly, he kind of owned their screw-ups. And whether or not that means that they're going to continue to do this, or if they've truly learned from their mistakes of the past, that remains to be seen. But that is a culture issue. And when I mean culture, I mean their business culture issue. And they have to understand that if they're truly going to succeed in this marketplace, they have to understand the world, the global culture, not just the way they're used to doing things, because not everybody thinks the way they do. And that's clearly evidenced by the last 4 months of people griping about Bambu's choices. So let's switch away from that and talk about the technicalities of things. Why did I choose the P1P? Well, first things first, speed. Speed. We all know in business, time is money. And this thing is fast. It's built on the same platform as the X1C and the P1S. I mean, it just goes. And then it comes to the compatibility issue. And when I say compatibility, I mean compatibility with what I had in my studio here to get up and running as quickly as possible. It fits in my enclosure without any mods, and that was a huge plus. So for me, it was compatible with what I needed and what I had. And then the last thing is expandability. The upgrade path, especially with the new AMS2, makes this printer last. It can grow with me, well, at least for now. And if things don't work out, I'm confident that I could resell it without losing much. So all of those things coupled together gave me peace of mind. Now, setup was surprisingly painless. The instructions were clear, calibration was fast, and the printer was ready to go in, I'd say, under an hour. Now, that's a huge win if you're trying to get up and going as quickly as possible and hit the ground running. But do not believe for a second that if you have no experience with 3D printers or any experience with modern day 3D printers, that you can do it in less than an hour. Trust me on this. Some people say 15 minutes. I call on that. Maybe 30 minutes, but more than likely an hour. These things are not just simply plug and play. They're as close to plug and play as they've ever been, but they're not plug and play. Okay, so I'll spare you the unboxing video. There's tons of those out there. The printer's been out long enough, and all the who's of 3D printing on YouTube have already done unboxing videos, so I'm not going to do that. And let's face it, you know, the P1P is really not that much to look at. It is a bare bones Core XY printer. There's no fluff to it. You plug it in, you hook up the necessary things, you run the calibrations, and then you go. There's no real fancy pants things to even point out on it. It's fast. It's a speed demon. That's what we wanted. I did have some oddities pop up early that I wanted to convey and I want to relay to you guys because I think it's important. The build plate issues. Okay, so if you've worked with Bamboo's P1 series, you know that the little guides that guide the build plate onto the table suck because they get you kind of there, but they're almost always you will get a slight shift if you're not dead on center. I don't understand why you have this really nicely engineered product and you can't get those tiny little plastic clips on the end of the table right. You have users making the correct design and then putting it up on your hosted Maker World. And I just find it comical. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of buying spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on a product only to have to make your own accessories for it because the company didn't want to include it. Of course, there's the issue of print quality, right? I mean, that's probably the number one issue. And so far, I'm happy to report that the quality has been right there, exactly where I need it to be. In fact, I also got the 0.2 millimeter nozzle because I have highly detailed small objects that I want to print. Along with that comes a speed slowdown to the point where it's almost double, if not double, the amount of time to print. But that's to be expected because you're only able to push through half the volume that you would with a 0.4. I plan to get the 0.6 and the 0.8 down the road, but right now the types of products that I'm working on, they don't require a lot of coarse prints. So I'm going to stay with the 0.2 and the 0.4, but eventually get the 0.6 and 0.8. Other than that, printer works great, even without the AMS. I'm not a big fan of the way that I have to load the filament on the back side of the printer, especially being inside that enclosure. But I mean, what you gonna do, right? I mean, there's trade-offs everywhere. Of course, there are ways to relocate that spool so that it's a little bit more conveniently accessible. However, given the narrowness of this enclosure, we're talking it's designed to be the width of the server. That's 19 inches. You're maxed out right there. There's just enough space on either side to get around to the back side of the printer, but I usually have to pull it out. I'm okay with that. The only difference from the MK4 versus the P1P is that the MK4 has a little bit of a different unload reload process. Same thing goes for Bamboo Studio versus Prusa Slicer. There's little minor differences here and there, but nothing major. You just go online and look it up if you can't figure it out for yourself. But generally speaking, most of this stuff is pretty obvious if you've had any experience using the slicers or any of the software. Bamboo Studio, it's fine. Matter of fact, I think it's a great implementation of a slicer software. I do have some issues with the way it handles some of the slicing, and I'm not really sure if it's specific to Bamboo, but I do know that the exact same model does not slice the same way in Prusa Slicer. So I'm still trying to figure that out, and before I make a video on it, I really want to understand what it is that's going on. So I'm not going to dive too deep into the software. If you're looking to get up and running though, by far, Bamboo Studio is the best way to do it. Now, and what can I say about the build quality other than it's tight? I mean, from the metal frame to the injection molded parts, everything is assembled nicely and doesn't squeak, doesn't creak, doesn't make any noise. And of course, when the printer's running, that leads to effectively a quiet print. Of course, you've got the stepper motors and you've got the fans, but once it's inside the enclosure, I don't hear that much, and you certainly won't hear it when I'm on microphone like I am right now. For right now, the repurposed server enclosure does the job. As a matter of fact, the automated temperature control just kicked in while I was making this video, so I know everything's working. The cool thing about the enclosure, though, that I wanted to stress is that I have 4 fans in that sucker, and they're big fans. Plus, I can pull the insulation off the sides. There's little die-cut openings that you can pull off, so I can increase airflow very, very easily if need be. It's not perfect, but it lets me keep the environment inside the enclosure consistent, and I don't have to spend a ton of money on just having an enclosure. All right, so what's the plan from here? Well, first things first, the printer needs to be making products for me to sell, but I still have to continue prototyping. So what my plan is to prototype, test somewhat during the day, but mostly it'll be production both daytime and overnight. So now let's talk upgrades, because of course I'm already thinking about them. And first things first, AMS2. I think that's already in the cards. Probably pick up one of these in short order. I mean, let's face it, if you're using Bamboo Studio, the software is practically built around the fact that it expects you to have an AMS. You don't have to, but it's really a better experience if you have an AMS. So if you're starting your own 3D business, or you've been working with a 3D business and you have comments or suggestions or anything like that, that's what the comment section down below is for. So please leave your comments. Did you think I made the right call? And if you want to see how all this plays out and get a look at this mystery product that I'm working on, make sure to subscribe. My journey is just beginning, and I don't plan to stop sharing any of my thoughts, opinions, joys, frustrations. If you know me at all, I definitely don't mind sharing my opinion, sometimes to my detriment. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. And remember, at the end of the day, we are all 3D printers. Man, I swear, sometimes these videos get me all worked up for no reason. Ugh, time to go 3D print in the bathroom.